F1 GP commentator John Watson is a former race winner here at Zandvoort, and who better to give him some modern day advice than local hero Jeroen Blekemolen.
In last year's race you had great results, but the biggest result I felt was when you got out of the car and the 70,000 Dutch fans around the circuit, they went mad for your drive.
Yeah, it was incredible, you know, all the build-up to the race was for me very special because I jumped in the car last minute.
And not only that, you got out of the car, you ran across the racetrack, you started to climb the safety fencing, you were Spider-Man.
Normally I try to be cool and take it easy, and I'm never like that, but it just happened. As soon as I got close to the fence, I just went up there and I wanted to shake everybody's hands basically.
Big act to follow for this year, isn't it?
Well, I hope we can do it again, that would be nice.
Tarzan Corner is the most famous corner on the Zandvoort circuit. You're the local boy, you've got the local knowledge. What's the right line?
Well, I don't want to tell my competitors, of course, but okay, I'm going to tell you. Yeah, it's a difficult corner. The best is turn in early, go onto the inside and stay there, which is normally the fastest.
You're the guy who went round the outside of 3 cars during the feature race. So how come you can do that?
Well, the good thing is it has got quite a lot of camber. So when you take the corner high, there's a lot of grip. So even if you run it high, you can overshoot it the corner a little bit, brake too late, but just make it and then still have the speed to carry on and take somebody on the outside.
Give me your tip for this corner.
Well, brake as late as you can. Maybe you brake a little too late. You will nearly overshoot it, but you can still make it, and that's the fastest to go.
I think I'll take my own advice on that one. And wouldn't you know it, on Saturday morning the heavens opened and we've got a saturated racetrack, and believe me, at the minute Zandvoort is slippery city. So the lines that I was given to go around Tarzan Corner are meaningless, and into turn 3 as well, meaningless. All you can do is hold the steering wheel as gently in your hands, turning in here to the Huggenhulst hairpin bend, hardly any throttle at all, and then when you exit the corner you have to short shift. Not maximum RPM, probably only half the available RPM, and then up into turn 5, 240 kilometers per hour if you're on it, but in these conditions it's a bit slower. Drop down the hill, slight compression, and then immediately you're into turn 6. This is a corner that exits and finally exits into turn 7. Again, gentle on the steering wheel, gentle on the throttle. Turn 8 was the corner that gave me the most grip, but generally the circuit is absolutely slippery, and you have to once again just short shift all the way down, turning into turn 9. No grip turning in, and even less grip when you go from right to left, and less grip again on the exit under power. In second gear, forget it. Third gear, still got wheel spin all the way down to turn 10. Settle the car entering turn 10, let it go out to the edge of the track, but watch again for the back end wanting to swap with the front of the car. And then finally turn 11, and on the exit, for the first time in a lap, I could get full throttle.
John Watson took to the track with local expert Thomas Enger, who wowed the crowds at Brno last year.
Thomas, you just finished the feature race, had a great drive for second place, and you come down to the stadium area where all the fans are watching, and then you go crazy for the fans, you start going mad.
Well, for sure, I was already waving in the last lap, just saying thank you, because it was really packed with spectators. It was full here and a lot of Czech flags. So I was thinking the whole lap after start-finish line, what I'm gonna do for them here. So here under the bridge, I burned the rear tire. Did some black marks on the road, and the crowd went mad.
Thomas, turn 1's the fastest corner on the Brno circuit, but last year when I were doing my laps, there's a nasty bump in the middle of the corner which scared me absolutely witless.
Well, as you said, it is the fastest turn. You're approaching the turn around 270 km per hour, shifting down 2 gears, braking just when you start to turn and going really fast through the turn. When you hit the bumps, you just really need to know where the bumps are, how much throttle you have to have.
Do I need to hit the bump, or can I not go a bit to the left?
Unfortunately, you have to go by the curb.
Well, there's no doubt Thomas Enger knows what he's talking about. Coming down into turn 1, braking a little bit earlier, and again looking for the bump in the middle of the corner. In fact, look at the back of the car. There's a movement, a vertical movement all the way around turn 1. Turn 2 is only a curve and really plays no part in the racetrack. The run down into turn 3 is critical, particularly at the start. Very, very wide entrance, allowing lots of chances to overtake. But then the transition from left to right is the key. The exit of turn 4 and then the plunge downhill into turn 5. Good exit speeds required at every corner here in Brno. Downhill braking is also tricky into turn 5, and then you blend immediately into turn 6, and then the left hand, the long left hand turn 7. Hug the curb all the way around, release the car on the exit, no donuts on this lap for me, and then into turn 8 and immediately switch back for turn 9. Continuing to drop down one side of the valley all the way down to the lowest point of the racetrack, turn 10. Third gear in the corner, again release the car on the exit looking for the apex, and then throttle open and let the car run out to the outside of the corner. Up to fourth gear as you start the climb back up the other side of the valley, back down to third gear. Turn left, again looking for your apexes, back to the right, and now you face Horsepower Hill, the steepest incline on any circuit that we race on in A1 GP. Come up to the braking zone, 100 metres, down 3 gears into third gear. Turn left into turn 13, then quickly back to 14. Key corner, it leads on to the main pit straight and the fastest part of the circuit. Another lap completed in Brno.
Herman Tilker's beautiful Sepang circuit is a driver's favourite, and who better to advise John Watson than local hero Alex Young.
Alex, turn 1 is one of those corners that goes on, and then on the exit, you're just getting out of it, and suddenly you're facing the prospect of turn 2, the slowest corner on the circuit, but you've got this great track width.
And it really makes for a really great first lap. You know, the first lap into this first corner, you have cars side by side trying to find room. And you often got cars trying to go around the outside, go around the inside, and because it's so wide for the second bit here, you'll see 3 or 4 cars wide trying to get to the apex first.
What are you going to do in turn 2 at the start of the sprint or the feature race? Because you've got all the width of track, some of the widest track of any we'll ever be to.
Depends where I am on the track. If I'm at the front, I'm going to try and be in the inside of turn 1 and then try and get right across for the apex of turn 2.
How do you avoid contact with other cars?
Well, the answer to that question is you can't avoid contact. It gets so tight here, and especially if you're in the midfield, you know you have to be resigned to some contact. You just have to be clever about it and make sure that the contact you have is in the right place for you, so it's not your front wing that gets lost. You maybe hit the side pod and you're on the inside for the apex.
Let's say you're on your own, you take the ideal line, you've got lots of curb on the inside. I've seen drivers get all 4 wheels actually off the racetrack to shortcut the corner. Yeah, that's right. There's a
nice bit of hard grass there you can use. And especially if you're diving down the inside of someone, you quite often see that all 4 tyres on the grass as they try and make themselves a bit more track. You will see some people try and break around the outside here, because if they do manage to hang around the outside through this corner, the next turn, turn 5, is a left-hander, so that they can be on the inside for that.
The Sepang circuit is magnificent. 5.54 kilometres and 14 turns, and here you see in turn 1 we've got a new surface which is offering up a lot more grip than I had 1 year ago. Down into the triple right-hander which comprises turn 3, and you then come on to the second fastest part of the racetrack, the run up into turn 4. Very wide here and opportunities to pass, particularly at the start of a race. Neat and tidy through 4, particularly the exit, because you're accelerating and then flat out round turn 5, and then the switch back through turn 6. If you're too aggressive here, you'll find yourself in the gravel on the outside of the corner. The approach into turn 7 is easy to overrun. Drivers in practice have gone off here just simply by being too aggressive. The second part, turn 8, really is a blend of turn 7, and then downhill into one of the slow corners on the circuit, turn 9. It's a hairpin bend, very tight, and then you climb up out of that corner, second gear, third gear, up to fourth gear before you come to turn 10. Again, position is critical to get that good exit speed. Dropping down once again through the flat out 11 and then 12. A real roller coaster of a ride as you run up into turn 13. Always looking for the apex in turn 13. It comes late, and try and feed the power on early to get a good exit speed as you come on to the fastest part of the racetrack, the back straight. 260 kilometers per hour up into turn 14. This is where overtaking will take place in both the sprint and feature races. Be neat and tidy around turn 14 to get a good exit onto the pit straight, and another joyous lap of Malaysia is complete.
Zhuhai Circuit is a new addition to the A1GP calendar, so who better to show John Watson the track than Team China's Frankie Cheng.
Frankie, coming down into turn 1, it looks a pretty straightforward kind of corner to me. It's about braking, turning, and then getting on the throttle.
Yeah, John, you're absolutely right. And approaching T1, driver really needs to know exactly where they brake and where the minimal speed comes, and acting out very fast.
So you get into turn 1, and of course there's a second part to this corner. Which is the most important part, the first part or the second part?
I think as long as the driver understands that which line they are taking will provide the best grip, and make sure that they have a good exit speed, that is most essential, the key of the circuit.
So really you're focusing the car set up to get the best drive out of these corners.
Yeah, definitely.
Frankie, when you come up to the completion of a lap here at Zhuhai, you've got turn 14, and that's one of those corners that looks to me like it's going to give the driver that feeling of being what a racing driver is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really most challenging corner of the circuit, and also the last corner, putting a lap together, very important to get this corner right. And not also the exit speed is very important for this corner. If I'm getting closer with any other driver in front of me, I may use this opportunity to use the power boost, try to overtake them.
At 4.3 kilometers in length and 14 corners, the Zhuhai circuit could be almost purpose-built for an A1GP car. And it's into turn 1 where the braking performance will be tested. Then it's the traction out of turn 2 that puts the emphasis on the back of the car. Flat out through 3, then into turn 4, another second gear corner. Bring the car back to the right-hand side of the racetrack, and then make your apex back on the throttle, accelerating up through the gears, second, third, fourth, flat out in 5th gear through turn 6, watching for the bumps on the exit, and then again hard on the brakes down to second gear for turn 7. The exit of this corner always greets you earlier than you expect, but once again another straight up through the gears, a flick through turn 8, and then back onto the brakes for turn 9. Position of the car here is critical because it is turn 10 that really is the important corner of these two. But watch on the exit for the curbing. People will drop a wheel off there. They'll kick sand on the racetrack. You don't want to be following a driver who's doing that. Up to turn 11 and then the blend into turn 12. Just be smooth, gentle on the throttle. Don't be too aggressive. And now we're on to the part of the racetrack that is the driver's treat. Turn 14. Brake at 80 meters. Down to 4th gear, place the car accurately, stay off the curb on the inside, you can run the curb on the exit, and a lap complete of Zhuhai.
Johnny Reid gave John Watson some tips to ensure he had the inside line round the Taupo track.
Start finish line's only 300 meters behind us, and it seems to me you only have to blink once and already you're into turn 1.
That's exactly right, John. The cars are going everywhere. It gets very tight in here, and you've got to pick your line well. It's just so hectic.
Is this the tightest turn 1 of any of the circuits that we visit throughout the year?
Yeah, I would say so. It's very tight, and the cars are scrambled at the start here. So, you know, it's very important to pick your line well and get the car through here and get the good drive out.
Now, you've got 2 chances to pick your line. You've got the sprint race, the rolling start, and you've got the standing start for the feature race. What's most difficult here?
I would say the rolling is more difficult because, you know, the cars are going faster, they're more spread out line-wise, and you just never know what the other cars are going to do.
Johnny, you're barreling down the main straight here, power boost, 260 kilometers per hour, and suddenly we've got a brand new turn 12.
Yeah, exactly, and the idea of this change is to influence passing, you know, introduce passing into this area of the track. And I think we're definitely going to see that this weekend.
Well, I mean, I want to see more overtaking for sure, but I mean, this is a totally different corner to the one we had last year.
That's exactly right, and the whole
flow of this section of the track now is completely different, and the way you approach and attack these corners is completely different.
3.3 kilometres and 14 turns on this mildly revised Taupo circuit. Hug the curb the entire way around turn 1 will position you perfectly to then attack turns 2 and 3, and you want to make this a blend, and it's gentle on the throttle, no stab, stop, start, keep the car flowing, and then it's turn 4, a little bit quicker than the previous 2 corners, and again suddenly on the brakes into turn 5, get the car into the apex, accelerate out, second, third, fourth gears through this right-hand flick, and then hard on the brakes, and look, even I lock up the inside wheel into turn 7. Back on the throttle, second, third, fourth gear, flat out through turn 8, and then the approach into turn 9, watch for the bumps on the entry. But worse still, there's a bump in the middle of the corner. That'll take a lot of cars off on the exit. A momentary draw of breath, and then through turn 10, hard on the brakes into turn 11. This is the key corner on the Taupo circuit, because good exit speed will determine your top speed down the main straight. Bumpy on the exit, pull the car over to the middle of the track, because again, another bump in the straight. There it is there. 6th gear, 260 kilometers per hour, and into the revised turn 12. Slower in, then turn 13, keep the car neat and tidy, and then finally turn 14, on to start, finish straight, and another great lap of Taupo.
Eastern Creek is home to one of the fastest corners in A1 GP. Australia's John Martin took John Watson for a look.
John, there are some corners and some circuits around the world that are what I call big corners, but turn 1 here in Eastern Creek, it's a real monster of a corner.
Oh, for sure, you know, it's definitely one of the best corners in Australia. It's one of the fastest. Off the start here, sort of you're not going quite so quick, so you can run through it side by side. Can usually ends in tears.
Now last year China did a pass around the outside of the Netherlands, an unbelievable pass in my mind. How did he get away with it?
Takes a lot of skill, a lot of nerve, and some yeah, definite big balls to go around the outside, I think.
John, you just come out of that mega turn 1 and all of a sudden you're into a slow 2nd gear corner. It looks pretty straightforward to me though. And what's it like?
It may look straightforward, but I'm afraid it's very the opposite. It's like at the start of the race, you've got 21 other cars barreling down into here. It's the first time you're on the brakes, so it's just people just going everywhere. There's people looking for a move, and then you come in here, you try and brake in as deep as you can, run out to sort of midway out to the track to try and get a good drive up over the hill. If you can get that right, I think you've, yeah, it's sort of the key to turn 2, I think, anyway.
11 turns and 3.9 kilometres in length, and at the early hour of the morning I'm going into turn 1. Well, it is an early morning wake-up call for me on the exit of the corner. It's also damp, and this circuit really is like trying to grab hold of a slimy mackerel as you go into turn 2, climb out of the corner. Immediately the back of the car wants to swap with the front, and then I'm into turn 3, the climb up over the crest of the hill, and then the drop down into turn 4. Keep the car neat and tidy through turn 4, because immediately out of 4 you've got the entry into turn 5. Watch again for that change of surface right on the apex. Free the car up on the exit, then come back to the left to turn into the very quick right-left flick that comprises turns 6 and 7. Traction again is a problem out of 7, but the climb up the hill into turn 8 is important. You've got to get the car into the apex earlier than you might anticipate, because otherwise you'll run wide on the exit. Down into turn 9, braking downhill. Again, get the car in, hug the curb, then on the power. Traction also a problem out of turn 9. Then the run up into turn 10. Very quick entry into this part of the racetrack, and then you've got to get all the speed off before you enter the first part of the final 2-part turn 11. Let the car run wide, then come back, hug the curb, and then when you see the exit, it's flat out all the way down the quickest part of the racetrack, up to 270 kilometers per hour before turn 1.
The Durban streets are notoriously tough. John Watson got a masterclass from South Africa's Adrian Zaug.
Adrian, they say there are no guarantees in life, but there is one I can give you, and that is, it is possible to lose either the sprint or the feature race in the first corner.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I mean, I experienced that myself last season here. Started midfield and I just got caught around this turn.
You've got a lot of track here. I mean, why does everybody dive to the inside of the corner when you've got space to go around and get clear?
Yeah, first of all, obviously the ideal line is to go as close to the wall as possible. And, but also you want to stay on the inside, especially after the start, because what happens if you leave a gap, anyone will just try to dive inside and take your positions.
Turn 13, which starts way, way back there, reminds me of a child going to a fun fair, getting into the ghost ride. You just never know what's coming up next.
Yes, exactly. It's like just turning into the unknown. And especially the first couple of times you go through here, you just have the feeling it's never going to end, and you actually start to feel lost in the turn because it just goes on for so long. And also from a driving point of view, it's just so difficult to actually make out the apex, you know, because it just carries on forever.
Now, one question I have to ask you is this corner flat out, or have you got to breathe the engine all the way through it?
Yeah, it's definitely possible in qualifying. I did that in my last segment last season, but I wouldn't say with the fuel load for the race, I won't say, but for qualifying it's possible.
Durban's our one and only street race of the season. 15 turns and 3.2 kilometres in length. And look at the bumps as you come into turn 1, Vodacom corner. Keep the car neat and tidy, as Adrian said, then accelerate out up to turn 2. Keep off the curbs as much as possible. Using them incorrectly will deflect the car from one side of the track into the other, and a wall is waiting to catch you. Into the Ericsson complex, very bumpy here in the right-hand part. Car bumping one side of the track to the other, then back to the left. Hard on the throttle, up to the final part of the complex, turn 6 and 7. I'm not using much of the curb, but the regular racers will be. Turn 8 leads onto the main straight. Keep it neat in the entry, then let the car release on the exit. Now it's flat out, all the way up to 260 kilometers per hour before you got to get the anchors out to slow yourself down for turn 9. Down to second gear. Difficult to see the entry to the corner. A little bit of lock-up. Be careful, John. Now hard on the power. Third gear. Back on the brakes. Into turn 10. Again, the curb on the inside can deflect you off into the wall on the outside. Then the little flick-flack. Left, right, left. Flat out if you're brave. Not for me. And immediately you're into Suncoast Boulevard, that never-ending corner where you pick up speed all the way through to the exit. Then hard on the brakes for the final turn. Turn 15. You compromise your line because of the bumps in the apex, but what fun it is to get back onto a proper street track here in Durban.
The Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez circuit is home to motorsport in Mexico, but also a haven for fitness enthusiasts who make the most of the public park. John Watson and David Gartha took a walk around the historic track, not for fitness, but for facts.
David, you're coming to the end of the longest start-finish straight of any of the tracks we visit. You've been flat out for 18 or 20 seconds, enough. You almost read a small paperback. And then turn 1 looms.
Yeah, it's a pretty heartbreaking corner. It's kind of bumpy, and there's good grip on entry. You kind of get a slight banking, but it's a fun corner.
But you've got so many cars close together. They've been close all the way down the straight. You don't always have the optimum choice of how you want to take this corner.
Yeah, no, I think probably most of the guys will want to take the inside, but maybe the outside's not such a bad choice, you know. Our left corner is after this, so if you can hold the guy on the outside, they will get him through turn 2.
David, we're in the middle of the Peraltada corner. I actually raced here in 1987, and none of this football stadium was here, nothing of the infrastructure around the racetrack. So it was easier for us, but you know, it's blind all the way round.
Yeah, it's like a concrete maze, you know. It's a full 180-degree corner, and it's really long, so it's really fast.
Now, you talk about commitment. We're about 7/8 of the way around the lap here. If you get it all wrong, you've blown your lap.
Yeah, you pretty much ruin this lap and the next lap, because if you get this corner wrong, it means you get a bad exit, and you got the longest straight finish line there is in A1, so it's really one of the most important, if not the most important corner of the track.
Welcome to the circuit Hermanos Rodriguez, just over 4 kilometers in length and 14 turns on a revised circuit here in Mexico City. The long straight leads into turn 1, but this was a very, very dusty racetrack first thing on Friday morning. And how slippery was it? Well, just look at the amount of work on the steering wheel. I can't even make the apexes in turn 2 and turn 3. But now we're onto this straight that leads down to the first of the big changes here in Mexico City. fifth gear, 140 miles an hour, then into turn 4. But where is it? You can't see it as you approach it, and you have to just work it out as you do, lap upon lap. Still no grip around turn 4, but just try to be accurate in the positioning of your car. If you clip those curbs on the inside, they'll throw the car off to the outside. You pick up speed all the way through these sequence of corners, turn 6, 7, 8. As you go through turn 8 into turn 9, then the track opens up, and then into turn 10 leads you on to the second quickest part of the racetrack, the back straight. And from the back straight we come to the second major change in the racetrack, the chicane. It's a nightmare. Tight to the right, then immediately back to the left. Fighting for traction, first gear, second gear, still got wheel spin. Into the Peraltada corner, picking up speed all the way around. Fourth gear, fifth gear, and then exit onto the pit straight. You think this track's dirty? Just look at this as I come onto the pit straight. But what a racetrack.
Hermann Tilker's Shanghai masterpiece looks amazing, but how does it drive? Switzerland's Neil Yanni and John Watson found out.
Neil, the entry into turn 1 here it's very quick indeed, but also you've got a lot of width and a lot of track to play with.
First turn, I think will be an interesting one in the race, as it's so wide and you have many different lines how you can take the corner. I would most probably clip just here in the beginning, the curb, and double apex it. But, well, it's the land of 100 lines.
It certainly is, but I mean, with the variation and the choice, I mean, it says to me there's an opportunity to, particularly at the start, if you want to run in the middle of the track, you can hold that position and maybe then make it work for you later in the corner.
Sure, yeah. I think you're in a very good position if you just stay wide here on the start. But don't forget, it's a very quick entry. I think it will be about 5th gear entry and then shifting down in the middle somewhere.
Neil, you've been grinding away on this long main straight, and then finally the opportunity comes to outbrake somebody into the slowest corner on the circuit, the hairpin bend.
Yes, it's very hard to get the braking point right. And then for the hairpin, it looks very tight in the entry, but then it actually opens up at the exit, so you can have a lot higher minimum speed than what you think in the beginning. I think that's the best overtaking possibility on the whole track, and you will see many different ways or tries to get past the guy. And I think it will be an interesting corner, maybe like Durban turn 1.
16 corners, 4.6 kilometers in length. On track 3, the variation we're using here at the Shanghai International Circuit. And turn 1 does rush up at you at 155 miles an hour. It goes on and on into turn 2, then drops away very quickly into turn 3, exiting that straight into turn 4, and then the short sprint up to the 5, 6, 7 complex of corners. Easy to overrun them. You don't see it until you're on top of the corner. Then you relax for a brief moment before turn 8, a long, constant radius corner that drops away into the double left. That is turn 9 and turn 10. 3rd gear in and building up speed through the corner to the exit where you're almost flat out and running wide on the curb. Even the AstroTurf on the outside gets a visit from these cars. Back onto the brakes into turn 11. Keep the car neat and tidy because immediately turn 12 beckons. Let the car run out to the outside of the corner and then bring it back down for the semi-bank turn 13. Onto the quickest part of the racetrack, up to 280 kilometers per hour in the race with a low downforce setup. But it goes on, and all you're doing is waiting for the braking markers to tell you it's 100 meters, get the anchors out and slow down to the slowest corner, turn 14, and immediately blends into 15. And then the short sprint up to the final corner, the tricky and underestimated turn 16. Be neat and tidy on the inside, let the car run out to the exit, but don't overrun it, and another lap of Shanghai is complete.
Two of the masters of Brands Hatch, past and present, took a walk round the roller coaster track.
Robbie, of all the corners on all the racetracks of the world, one puts more trepidation into every driver, and it's this corner, Paddock Hill Bend.
It's absolutely awesome corner with the approach, rising up the hill, braking is not clear exactly where you want to brake, and then the turning is blind. You can't see the apex, you don't know where you're going. The road's dropping away the whole time. You just got to go for it.
Now, I know you're going to have 2 wheels off the racetrack. on the exit of the corner. Can you get away with that every lap?
Sometimes you can get away with it, not every lap though, because looking down there, it looks fairly flat, but it's not. The curb has got a nice ridge in it, and these cars are so low to the ground, we just bottom out straight away.
Could be walking down any leafy country lane in the centre of Kent, but in fact, we've just come out of Westfield Bend, down the dip. Now we're climbing the hill up to Sheen Curve, which of course we can't even see from here.
It's a fantastic corner, and it's fantastic being out on the back Grand Prix half of the circuit, going through the woods. It's great as a driver, you get the real sensation of speed, and of course it's all blind as well. There's not one corner really that you can see the apex clearly. You're coming up to Sheen, well, where do you brake? Where do you turn in? It's just so blind, and so as a driver, you just got to get so used to it. It's just get into the rhythm, carrying the speed, and really just going for it here, because there's so much time to gain and lose.
You've got a whole load of trees up there. Which one is the tree you use for your entry point into Sheen Curve?
I'm not going to give that one away. I know where I look, but I'm not going to give too many points away for people listening back home who want to come here and try and beat me.
Brands Hatch Grand Prix track is motor racing heaven. 9 corners and 3.7 kilometres in length. And Paddock Bend is the first of the major corners here at Brands Hatch. The rise and the fall, and then the rise up into Druids. It'll catch out the curlers or the sloppy, so keep it neat and tidy around the inside, then let it release on the exit, and then the drop down to Graham Hill Bend. An inappropriate corner for the 2-time world champion. But bottom straight now, accelerating up to 4th gear, 5th gear, and into Surtees. A chance to pass down the inside, but you must be alongside the car to get the job done. Climb out of Surtees and onto the fastest part of Brands Hatch circuit, the Hawthorne Straight. The drop down, the compression at the bottom of the hill, then the rise up into Hawthorne Bend. 5th gear, point the car to the apex, then hard on the throttle and run the car out to the side of the racetrack. Back down to 4th gear for Westfield Bend. Watch for the bumps on the outside, they can set the car off. Down the hill into Dingledell, then up the other side into Sheen Curve. The blind approach, you aim the car, hope you get it right, and then all of a sudden, Stirling's corner, 3rd gear. Again, respect this corner. I know from bitter experience it can bite. Then the final straight down to Clark Curve. And this, for me, the most exciting corner on the racetrack. You really can float the car out to the exit, hard on the throttle, and another lap's completed.